holiday overachieving is the number one reason your I'll start in January plan turns into holiday overeating and you don't even realize it's happening. Because right now, there are three predictable personality traits that are influencing every single food decision that you make. They're the same traits that made you extremely successful in your career, but they're causing you to feel out of control around food, and especially this time of year. After 40 plus years of emotional eating myself, and after helping several hundred women conquer emotional eating with tactics I learned as the chief of staff for FBI counterintelligence, yes, really, I can tell you this. Your holiday binges, they're not random. In this episode, we're going to take those three personality traits, and instead of letting them sabotage you, I'm going to show you how to weaponize them to your advantage so you can stop binge eating, overeating, and stress eating when life feels chaotic. All without dieting, without starving yourself, and especially without waiting until January. Number one is perfectionism. A big piece of why you binge in private is perfectionism. And this is when your performance feels threatened. So perfectionism, it drives this all or nothing mentality from the perspective of, I'm either going to do it all perfectly or I'm just not going to do it at all. This black and white thinking, it leaves no room for middle ground of any kind of imperfection, which then leads to these just extreme swings in behavior. There's a study published in the Behavior Research and Therapy, and they found that individuals who equate their self-worth with success, they often struggle with these same all or nothing patterns. These perfectionist tendencies, they trigger guilt, they trigger shame, and particularly when you have had this ideal of the quote unquote perfect holiday season, but the standards in your head, they're not met. Perfectionists, they are afraid of making any kind of mistake because they believe that being perfect equals success. So this creates this intense focus on getting it right. And when perfectionists when they can't meet this impossible standard, they're just going to swing to the entire opposite extreme and then just give up altogether, which then creates this mentality of I failed again, which then creates more feelings of guilt and shame for not getting it right. And then in order to cope, your brain pushes you to indulge. Your brain pushes you to eat the food for comfort. So for example, you know what it's like to juggle all the traditional holiday responsibilities. You got the shopping and the cooking and the hosting on top of everyday life responsibilities with work and family. This is what I hear on my coaching calls. Tell me if this sounds familiar. That you're going to decline dessert because you want to look like the perfect hostess. But when everyone is gone, you're just standing in front of the pantry or in front of the refrigerator and you're eating everything in sight, everything that's left over from the party. The other thing to keep in mind is that perfectionists are typically sensitive to criticism, not just criticism from other people, it's their own self-criticism. So this all or nothing mentality, it helps them to avoid situations where they might fall short of their high standards and they're going to face this negative judgment. So in other words, they would rather be overweight than try to make any kind of improvements to eat healthier and to lose weight, to not do it perfectly, to fail and to be judged. Okay, how can you counter this? The self-help gurus, they're going to tell you to embrace being messy and give yourself grace. As a lifelong type A woman, I get a chuckle out of this advice because that is like telling my pug to not lose his mind on the Amazon delivery guy. Okay, got it, Moonflower. Just let me lower my standards and stop being excellent today, and I'll just send myself a Hallmark card full of inspiration instead. Let me go burn my color-coded planner and just embrace mediocrity. I know you don't roll like that because I don't roll like that. So let's ask a better question. How can you weaponize your perfectionist tendencies to your advantage? So right now, your perfectionism, it's aimed at the wrong target, like the perfect holiday, the perfect image. So you're perfecting the performance. So instead, flip the focus. Aim your perfectionism to the process instead of the performance, to the process. Focus on perfecting one micro habit at a time. Focus on perfecting the 60-second pause before you eat, Or the check-in strategy. Ask yourself, what is my body actually craving right now? Make that process perfect. Perfect the boundary phrase that you're going to use with your family. You don't actually have to stop wanting to be perfect, but life gets a lot easier when you stop perfecting what you can't control. Number 2 is people pleasing. And a big piece of why you binge eat at holiday gatherings, it's actually rooted in social conditioning. So this is when your relationships feel threatened. We were taught and told at a very early age, we have to be the good girl. So in elementary school, what do? We sat in those little wooden desks, and they've got the little groove for our pencil and that little pocket for our trapper keeper. We politely raise our hand. We waited to be called on. People pleasing and perfectionism, they are deeply linked. They are like peanut butter and jelly because we got rewarded for getting straight A's. We got rewarded for being captain of the field hockey team. We got rewarded for being first chair in band. And a lot of us grew up in homes where we subconsciously took on the peacekeeper role. So maybe you grew up in a house that it was divorced or blended family. Maybe you're a middle child. Maybe your parents worked long hours. Maybe you stepped in to help. Maybe there was some alcoholism in the family. Maybe you got bullied at school. There's a lot of different reasons why we take on this peacekeeper role at an early age. But the result is the same, is that we become this peacekeeper because when we are the good girl and we are helpful, we are loved. So this turned into people pleasing as an adult, or as I like to call it, the good girl spiral. There's a study from Psychology Today, and they found that people pleasing behaviors develop as a form of this social survival. So, for example, researchers found that those with people pleasing tendencies, they tend to sacrifice their own personal needs because they want to maintain harmony and they want to avoid conflict. So in other words, they sacrifice their own happiness and their own needs to make sure everyone around them is happy and taken care of. What does this look like during the holidays? You volunteer to do everything, even when you don't have to, on top of everything else you're doing. So now you're running on fumes, which turns to a few extra pieces of fudge or a few more pieces of peppermint bark, and food is the only place where you get comfort. So when you're at a family gathering or an event, you feel obligated to eat everything because you don't want to offend the host. Or you feel obligated to say yes when the host offers seconds or desserts or another glass of wine. You don't want to eat it, but when you do, you feel gross inside. You wake up in the morning and you've got this good girl hangover full of regret. How do we counter this? The self-help gurus, they're going to tell you to just stop caring what other people think about you, or just stop taking on so much. Yeah, okay, Moonflower, let me go cancel Christmas and throw all of the traditions that I grew up with in the trash. Better question to ask yourself is, how can I weaponize people-pleasing to my advantage? So instead of people-pleasing others, ask yourself, what would it look like to people-please myself instead? Meaning, if I did the absolute best I could for myself, what would that look like? If I treated myself with the most amount of respect with how I ate, what would that look like? If I didn't want to hurt my own feelings, what would that look like? Number 3 is control. A big piece of why you binge when life feels chaotic is because you want to control everything, and you can't. This is when your safety feels threatened. I feel like so many women have this made up plan, this idyllic Christmas that in their head, but it only exists in the Hallmark movie. My friend, you are not the big city girl back in her small town falling in love with the red plaid flannel wearing lumberjack guy. You're not styling one of the most impossible standards in TV history, the Hallmark Christmas Channel house. But it's like you have to control every single detail so this plan can be perfectly executed. And here's what's crazy is the more your life is chaotic and out of control, the more you have to be in control. So what happens, you boss everyone around, and the second that something doesn't go The way that you have it scripted in your head, you completely self-sabotage to save face. And what does this look like? It's usually by devouring an entire plate of Christmas cookies or drinking a few too many glasses of wine. Let's say you're hosting the holiday dinner and one dish doesn't turn out, or someone cancels at the last minute. You feel like the entire event is ruined because it doesn't follow this perfect script in your head. So that turns into either overcompensation, meaning you start forcing everyone to have a good time. It's this blurred line of being bossy and people pleasing. Or you just completely check out because it's a epic failure and you have to save face. And we're right back into the all or nothing perfectionist tendencies. Okay, I told you they are related. They are peanut butter and jelly. Control isn't actually about being controlling. It is manufactured safety. And it's manufacturing this safety when life feels chaotic and unpredictable. When something goes wrong, you feel like you're not good enough. And eating comfort food is the one and only way you can control. You can feel in control. This is the one and only way that makes you feel safe. Eating the comfort food is how you take the edge off. How can you counter this? The self-help gurus, they are going to tell you to just surrender to the flow. They're going to tell you to release your inner goddess. Yeah, no. Let me break this down for you, Moonflower. I've got 14 people coming to my house and one oven. If I surrender to the flow, we're going to be eating green beans at 2 o'clock, mashed potatoes at 4 o'clock, and the ham at 8 o'clock at night, which means everyone's going to be inhaling the fudge so they don't starve, and then I'm not going to have any leftovers for breakfast tomorrow. The better question to ask yourself is this: how can I weaponize control to my advantage? So many women, they focus on controlling the outputs, which you will have no control over. None of us have control over the outputs. But what would happen instead if you only focused on controlling the inputs? Ask yourself, what are the inputs that I can realistically control? And that's when the project manager gets to come out and shine. Build that project plan and then build in the risk mitigation. And then more importantly, focus on controlling how you respond, because it's not the stress that brings us down. It's our reaction to it. So I've given you the overachieving, overreacting trilogy. You're binge eating in private when your performance feels threatened. This is also known as perfectionism. You're binge eating at holiday gatherings when your relationships feel threatened. This is known as people pleasing. And you're binge eating when life feels chaotic because your safety feels threatened. This is known as control. But it doesn't stop with this trilogy. We have these patterns, they're swirling around on top of each other. And it creates this storm of triggers and chaos and stress and emotional eating. At the end of the day, the perfectionist in us calls the entire situation an epic failure. The people pleaser in us lost all boundaries, and the controlling nature in us has convinced us that we are the reason that everything fell apart. And when that happens, the indulgence, the emotional eating, is always going to win. Everyone thinks that weight loss is about weight loss. But if that was true, wouldn't all of the restrictive diets and the calorie counting apps and the gym routines, wouldn't all of that have worked by now? The truth is, the diet industry, they want you to focus on the quick fix and counting calories. The mindset industry, they want you to practice mindful eating. And the personal development industry, they want you to have better habits and discipline over your food. I am here to tell you, weight loss is not just about losing weight. This is about recognizing the deeper patterns that are hijacking your decisions over and over and over again, and especially around the holidays. Once you rewire your automatic responses, healthier choices happen naturally. This is when emotional eating, it stops feeling like this fight against yourself, and weight loss actually becomes sustainable. So let me ask you this. Are you the type of person who's going to take everything that you just learned in the last few minutes and say, got it, Holly, I'm going to start this in January when the holidays are over or when things slow down? Or, and I'm kind of betting my bottom dollar you're this one, you're the type of person who's going to take everything you learned today and you're ready to say, I am ready to break the cycle. If that's you, I have a free training that I think you might find interesting. You'll get the psychology based method to outsmart emotional eating in 10 days. I'll leave a link in the show notes, or you can DM me on Instagram at holly.bertone, Bertone, with the word training, and I will send you the link to register. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Holly Bertone, your emotional eating profiler and coach, and this is Weight Loss Forensics.